Hello, you're listening to Count Richard Von Coudenhove, Kalergi. Today is Friday, the 14th of December, and here's a couple of comments since my last video. Well, they finally did it. The Irish government signed the Global Compact in Marrakesh on Tuesday, the December the 11th, with Minister for Justice Charlie Flanagan representing the state. Looking at his Twitter page, showed a selection of photographs of him shaking hands with different dignitaries, looking very happy with himself. So why the silence from the government regarding this matter? The same with other countries. The lack of media coverage, in my opinion, was to keep people deliberately in the dark, which can only mean that it is not in the national interest. Now, Mr. Flanagan, while he was in Marrakesh, made a speech in which he stressed the important role Peter Sutherland played, saying that along with other pioneers demonstrated the leadership necessary to firmly place migration at the centre of the global agenda. He also goes on to mention that 17% of our population has emigrated, and that gives us a special responsibility in the vision of the Global Compact. He also mentioned that 1 out of every 6 residents was born abroad, and that our workforce is the third most international in Europe, and that 73% of all migrants are migrant workers. Well, Charlie, how do you square that circle regarding the high unemployment rates for non-EU citizens? Why did over 20 countries not sign the Global Compact, with, for example, the American ambassador to the UN saying our decisions on immigration should always be made by the Americans and by the Americans only? Austria, at the end of October, declaring immigration is not and cannot be a fundamental human right. Australia, in the words of their Interior Minister, we will not sign any document that is not in the national interest, and is not in our national interest to delegate our policy of the protection of our borders to the United Nations. Poland, it is very likely, probably that Poland, following the example of others, will not take part in the Global Compact because our rules and our sovereign principles concerning the protection of our borders are our priority. This proves that those countries and the other 20 that did not sign, because they understood that the Migration Pact is exactly that which serves those who have used illegal immigration to deprive the nations and peoples of their identity. It also demonstrates that those running this country are truly globalists and do not have the national interest at heart. The cooperation between the media and the state is at a frightening level, and it's only a matter of time that the government will turn its attention on alternative media such as Twitter, Facebook and YouTube, as more and more people switch off mainstream media. Live streams like Gemma O'Doherty and her anti-corruption tour, which hopefully will keep going, and Gran Torino's live streams, along with those with the Don and Critiqued and a couple of others, are reaching a wider and growing audience, and hopefully wake up more and more people. I'm mindful of a quote from American broadcaster Edward G. Murrow: "A nation of sheep will beget a government of wolves," and we definitely have a government of wolves, a government that keeps snapping at any opportunity it can to attack this country. From Micheál Martin's attack on the sovereignty, quoting, "Let there be no doubt where Ireland stands. We want nothing to do with backward-looking idea of sovereignty. We remain absolutely committed to the ideals of a European Union." To the people before profit in Fingal, councillor who wanted to have the tricolour removed from County Hall as it could offend foreign nationals. How could an Irish person be offended by his own flag? In the Dáil this week, Breed Smith describes those at the vigil as filth and fascists, saying, "I've come from outside the gates of the Dáil, where for the first time in many decades we have seen organised fascists on the streets," and mentioned that they were all white, male Irish people. So Breed, can you not be a concerned citizen and question government policy regarding migration without being labelled or called a Nazi by people like you? Why did you have your picture taken with Boyd Barrett wearing a yellow vest in solidarity with the people of France, seeing that one of the reasons for the protests in France was against the signing of the Global Compact, and the French were sick of their culture being eroded by migration and the amount of tax going to support a welfare state. You shame those in this country who struggle to make ends meet. You shame those who spend between 3 and 4 hours a day travelling to work by wearing that yellow vest. After all, you probably claim more in fuel allowance to travel from Inchicore to the Dáil than some people spend in a year in fuel. Another relation to a comment in France was that there was a reaction to the Global Compact actually came from the military, with an open letter from General Antoine Martinez written to President Macron, along with former minister, along with 12 other generals and admirals, signing a letter to the President of the Republic asking him to renounce the signing of the Global Compact, saying that it seems to us that the only sovereignty that will remain with France is implementing the obligations of the pact. You cannot give up this new pact, part of national sovereignty, without a debate, considering 80% of the French population it necessary to stop or regulate migration. By signing, you will add an additional reason to revolt to an already battered people and guilty of a denial of democracy or treason against the nation. As I said, this letter was made public. How about that from something happening like that in the military? But so that's about it. I've noticed I have a couple of new subscribers this week. Thanks for subscribing. Looking forward to reading your comments. My thoughts are my own, and thanks for listening. Bye bye.